Hey, Ray, tell us about that trip that you and I guess it was you and Kurt took to Europe. Not too. When did you go over there?
It was about 4 or 5 years ago. I had this harebrained idea to go to 13 European countries in 13 days and film 13 episodes for our television program. And the reason for that is because I'm quite insane.
Well, I'm glad you told him because I didn't want to tell him, Ray.
Yeah, it was a harebrained idea, but it worked. I mean, the key was, I told the team, there were 16 of us, I said the key is to sleep well and eat healthy. And after the second day, we'd had about 2 hours sleep. We'd been on fast food, and the whole 13 days were like that. But we captured some wonderful footage, speaking to atheists and preaching in 13 different countries. But the reason I did it was to show that human beings all over the world are exactly the same. We're all of one blood. We have a conscience. And you don't have to go and live with a culture for 2 or 3 years and dress like them and learn their language to preach the gospel to them. All you need is a good interpreter and the knowledge that you can speak to someone's conscience and they have a will to live. And the gospel is just as powerful, and you can get to it in 2 minutes, and you have to wait for 2 years. And that's what the episode, season 4 does.
Right. I want to give people opportunity to go to. Well, tell people your website there right now. What's there?
Yeah, if I could, it's livingwaters.com. And what we did just in recent months, Kirk and I took the cream of season 4, and we went to see the Duggar family and incorporated them, and we took the cream of it and condensed it and formatted it for use and re-released it under the title of Roots, because...
Re-released what?
The whole of season 4. We took the cream...
You mean the trip to Europe?
Yes.
That you just described? Okay.
Yeah, and so what it does is it teaches young people, particularly in a format that's pleasing to the eye and ear, how to share the gospel. And we're very excited about it. It's been commended by some great leaders across the country.
So can they find out more information at what, Living Waters?
At livingwaters.com, yes.
And this is Way of the Master you're talking about, isn't it?
The television program, yeah, it goes to 123 countries. It's on 52 networks, and we're delighted that a program that teaches people how to evangelize biblically is being so well received.
Ray, I know you're not necessarily a historian, although you have studied history. I mentioned the fact that, Europe was, for the most of Europe, was Christianized.
Right.
A couple thousand years ago. We know that. We see the influence of Christianity on Europe, and of course it came by virtue of that. It came to the New World, to America, and then Canada, so forth. So the influence of Christianity. But what has happened to Europe the last, 50 years or more?
75, yeah,
75, or longer than that. I don't know exactly how long. They have been rejecting the God of their fathers, and so they're becoming a dark continent, and spiritually dark. I mean, so I'm sure you found that out when you went over there. What is going on in Europe?
Well, absolutely. We did a synopsis of each of the 13 countries and gave a short history, and most of them have some sort of Christian background, especially Germany and places like that. But what's happened is they've been given over to atheism. Man has a God-shaped vacuum in his head. There is something missing in the brain of humanity. God offers everlasting life, and people ignore it. And the Bible says when you come to Christ, you receive the spirit of a sound mind, it says in the book of Timothy. And until that time, we don't have a sound mind. Our understanding is darkened. We're alienated from the life of God through the ignorance of sinners because of the blindness of our heart. Just recently, I interviewed a young lady. She was 23 in a university, and she was blind from 2 months old. She'd never seen light as far as she remembered. So the first question I had for her was, tell me about the color blue. Explain it to me. And she said, blue is a very sad color. And I said, why would you say that? And she said, because people get the blues. And in her very confined world without light, that was her image. And that's the way of the atheist. He has no idea of what's out there. I mean, this woman had no idea of the beauty and the awesomeness and the breathtaking color of blue. A blue sky just takes your breath away. It's just beautiful. And so it is with the atheist. In his little dark, confined world, he has no idea of the awesomeness of God, and what he needs is light. And that's why it's so important that the church raises up and begins to proclaim the gospel and bring light to this generation. In Europe and in our country, because we have a generation that's turned its back on God, and knowledge is such a powerful thing. You know, Tim, if you were going to drink some water on a hot day and you just couldn't wait to quench your thirst, and I gave you one bit of information and just said, there's arsenic in that water, you're going to push it away. And that's the message we have for this generation. They're drinking in it we like water. They're just trying to quench the thirst for sin. And we're going to say, hey, there's arsenic in that water. The wages of sin is death. That'll take you to hell. And talk to them about the existence of God. You can't have a creation without a creator. And that knowledge gives them the ability to do a 180, helps them see things from a different perspective and change their mind. And that's what we see happening in Season 4 of The Way of the Master, the television program. People changing their minds when they're given knowledge.
Ray, why don't you explain, because you mentioned 180, which was just a phenomenal DVD movie that you produced, and want to talk I'd like to know how people specifically responded in these European countries to the way that you present the gospel. But before we do that, you need to let those who are not aware of your approach tell them what your approach is when you, because you do this, you are insane. I think we all, Tim and I know that, because you will go up to these humongous, skinheads, it doesn't matter, tattoos everywhere, and they're just huge guys.
Look like they're ready to kill somebody.
Look like they're ready to kill somebody, and you get in their face with your presentation of
Ray is physically intimidating, though, you have to admit. He's probably 5'7", 5'8", 145 pounds, every bit of it.
And you could if you get 180, it's the number 180. You can search for it and find it. You will see Ray standing up to a guy's shoulders. That guy Steve, I think his name was, with the big mohawk. But let those who are listening and watching, give them a kind of a taste for how you begin the process of preaching the good news to people.
Well, I'm 5'5" for a start, not 5'8".
I was trying to be generous, Ray. That's all right.
And I'm shrinking. But there's a couple of keys that we teach in our program, and one of them is the power of the human conscience. I know when I meet somebody who is tough on the exterior that God has given light to every man, that he has a conscience, and that conscience is an ally in this war. And I want to make contact with that ally, and the way I do it is just go through the commandments. And you can do it in love and gentleness, but uncompromisingly. And the other thing, too, and I was just thinking about this morning, remember Roger Whittaker?
The singer?
Yeah, the singer, yeah.
Yeah.
And he's had a song called I Don't Believe in If Anymore. If's an illusion, and he spoke about the whole illusion of saying, if only I'd done this, if only I'd done that. But, there's a positive to the word if, and I use it all the time. In fact, if is the best door opener I've got. When I meet someone who says, I'm an atheist, I don't believe in God, I don't believe in the Bible, I don't believe in Jesus, I believe in nothing, just say, if heaven exists, would you be good enough to go there? All I want to do is plant seed in the soil of his garden, in his mind. I want to take the seed of the gospel, and if gets me through the gate. He says, what do you mean if? Well, if heaven does exist, are you good enough to go there? Well, if it does, well, yeah, I'm a good person. That gets me in. So it's a baseball bat that hits unbelief out of the park. So if someone says I don't believe the Bible, just say, if heaven exists, are you good enough to go there? And that'll give you license to speak to their conscience. And then you go through the commandments and say, okay, how many lies are you told in your life if you think you're a good person? You'll say, I've told lots of lies. And then specify it, personalize it, say, what do you call someone who tells lies? Because any of us can generalize when it comes to sin, but specifics really scares us. Paul used this principle in Romans chapter 2, where he said, you who say you shall not steal, do you steal? You who say you shall not commit adultery, do you commit adultery? He was using the moral law to stir the conscience and personalize sin to his hearers. And that's all they do. And this conscience rises up. It's like a judge on the courtroom in the mind. It's impartial, and it agrees with the commandments and agrees with me. And if you can do that in love and gentleness, go through those commandments one by one. How many lies you told? Have you ever stolen something? Have you ever looked with lust? Jesus said that's committing adultery in your heart. How are you going to do on Judgment Day? Man, you're going to be guilty, aren't you? And he says, yeah. It's heaven or hell. He says, Ben, I'll go to hell. And you can see this happening in 180, and that's at 180movie.com if people want to see it. I think it's had 3.8 million views. And also in Genius, you see in the movie Genius that we've just produced, geniusthemovie.com, you see the same thing happening. hardened, atheistic people who are ungodly and blasphemous suddenly becoming reasonable and thinking about their eternal salvation because that impartial judge on the courtroom of mind, that conscience has been stirred by the commandments and by the power of the Holy Spirit.
Talking to Ray Comfort from Living Waters Ministries, we've mentioned a lot of resources that Ray's ministry has produced. Where do you want them to go to see these things, like the 180, the video, or the Genius video?
Yeah, 180movie.com. It's a free viewing, and geniusthemovie.com. And if they want any products, livingwaters.com. And also, I've got a very, very active Facebook page. It's just type in Facebook and Ray Comfort, and up it will come.
Well, you see your face, you know why. Ray, I mean,
Ray's a good sport,
if
folks.
He wasn't doing this,
Ray before.
He would definitely be in the modeling business somewhere. New Guinea, Algeria, I don't know where, but he would be somewhere in the modeling business.
You know, I've grown a beard of late.
Have you really?
Oh, yes, because a beard covers a multitude of chins.
Yeah, and you can find those in the phone book in Beijing, can't you? Yes, sir. I got more of those. So I one up to Ray on his corny jokes.
Hey, Ray. And yeah. Ray is corny now.
Yeah, he is corny.
He'll give J.J. Jasper a run for his money on jokes. Yeah. Ray, let me ask you now, with this approach, because we want to give you an opportunity to mention Genius and talk a little bit more about that too, but, when I heard that you had gone to Europe, to go to these 13 countries and take the strategy of the way of the master and this presentation of the gospel.
If I can just describe that, Ed, for just a minute. We're talking about what Ray and Kirk do. They go out in the middle of a town square.
Right.
And, take 60 seconds and describe what you did in all these towns. What were these towns? You went to London and Berlin and Rome Paris
and Munich.
And you go to the town. You go basically out in the middle of the city, and you set up what kind of situation?
Well, firstly, Kirk hosted it. He didn't come with us.
Okay.
But we set up a soapbox in the middle of each of these cities and just began speaking. And the way we get a crowd is we're not like the average open-air preacher, the stereotype where you've got a sign and you just yell at people with a blowhorn as they go past. We engage people in conversation. And the way we do it is we give away money. People stop when a preacher's giving away money. It's kind of like water running uphill. It's unnatural to see a preacher doing that. And the way we give away money, we say, okay, we've got some trivia. What's the number one killer of drivers in the U.S.? And people yell out different things, cell phones, and they all get it wrong because most people don't know what the number one killer of drivers in the U.S. is. But we give away money when people get the answers wrong. Someone will yell out, cell phone, so that's wrong, let's give her a big hand, and let's give her $1 here because we love losers. And that creates humor and a good feeling among the people to be giving away money when people get things wrong. And then when someone gets it right, everyone gives them a big hand. And then you say, okay, sir, you just won a couple of dollars there by answering trivia. Do you want to go for $20? He says, yeah, so get up on the box there. So we've got a heckler's box, and we've got a box too, and we say, okay, if you prove to be a good person, we'll give you $20. If you're not a good person, we'll give you $5 consolation prize and a free DVD called Genius on the life of John Lennon. It's a win-win situation. Are you ready? And he says, yeah, I'm ready. Are you nervous? He says, yeah, a little bit. So it's going to get worse. And then we just take him through the Ten Commandments and through into grace, and we give him his $5. We say, you didn't earn this $5, did you? It's coming to you as a free gift. And that's exactly how God gives the everlasting life. We can't earn it because we're criminals, and anything we offer God is an attempt to bribe him. All we can do is trust in the mercy of the judge, and God's rich in mercy. And then we give them $5, the crowd claps. Everyone's happy, we're happy, we've preached the gospel, the person's got $5 in a DVD, and then we move on to the next person. And it really does work. We do that we did it in UC Berkeley recently, had a crowd for 4 hours. They gave us a permit to preach for 4 hours and to film and with amplification. So we're kind of UC Berkeley, pack of radicals. No, they're not. They're ordinary human beings that wear tie-dye T-shirts from the 60s. They're just caught in time. Same with UCLA. And we want to encourage Christians just to go and do what we do, learn how to do it through the Roots course or whatever, and then go and do it. Because when you lay your head on your pillow at night, it is such a good feeling to know that you've actually obeyed the Great Commission and you've tapped into the eternal and preached the everlasting gospel to dying sinners.